I wasn't even there yet. It started off as a little Bible study over at the Paganuran house. And then later on, they were able to attain a church building over at Wardlow and started renting that out. And then afterwards, a couple of years later, we got moved from there and we were over at the Grand, on Willow and Grand. We were meeting there for a while. At the time, it was called Elks Lodge, and they changed it to the Grand. And then afterwards, we moved to a Samoan Methodist church, and we stayed there for a while until finally the Lord provided funds for us to have our own building. Now the question to ask yourself is, why would God give you a building only to find that you get moved out of it? And that was very puzzling, because the city of Long Beach wanted to take this building. The houses that you see over at the left-hand side didn't exist at the time. There used to be a liquor store that a lot of us like to go to after service ended to get some snacks and all. And we also met what we call the Mushekin kids, or the Bird kids. Right next door, where there was an empty lot, there was an apartment. There was an apartment complex there where we were reaching out to the community for the gospel. And now the city wanted to take our building. We felt that maybe it was God's leading to give us a new building. So they showed us different properties. One that used to be a gas station, another one that used to be a bar, another one that was a huge building, but there was inadequate parking. And there was a building that we wanted to get, but then they were kind of like stalling for us to get it, until finally, when we didn't like the choices that they were giving us, they told us to get that property, but it was already too late. And so now they're pretty much forcing us to get out. They were going to buy us out, and that we had no choice. In other words, it's called bullying. You would think that it only stops at school, but it happens a lot now, these days. If you don't have enough knowledge, if you're not a good lawyer, you can be bullied big time. So Pastor Owen, at the time, didn't know anything. You know, all he knew was the gospel, to preach it. He didn't know how to solve these kind of problems. You know, he went to the Long Beach Harbor Association for some help, and they gave him recommendations, and a lot of them were just telling him that he should just fold. Even the people in FSBM were telling us that we should just give in, you know? Until finally there was a person by the name of John Eastman, right? And he's like a dean of law over at Chapman University. And he gives him a call, like a reluctant phone call. I'm just going to take a shot at the dark here. Hopefully it works. And he gets a voicemail message, so he leaves that message there. And when it came time to the deadline to make a decision as to whether or not we get the property, Pastor Rome was ready to go ahead and give the property until John Eastman starts driving down to 2155 Atlantic Avenue and tells him, no, we're not selling the property. We're going to fight it. We're going to fight the city. And if it has to come down to it, we're going to take you to the Supreme Court. And so from that point on started our fight. You know, it was a confusing time for me personally, because I didn't understand what God wanted. And there are a lot of people that were saying that we were supposed to stay here. Others were a little bit confused. We didn't know what to do. We were searching the scriptures, doing some interesting things, like walking around our property as it did in the walls of Jericho. We were trying something. But for that time, the church united as one, because we wanted to stay. We wanted to stay. Pastor Owen was able to get on the news, on Fox News. You know, that was pretty cool. And I like that one. I think it was back in 2006. Yeah, it was 2006 when eminent domain started to take place. And so he got on Fox News. Pastor Owen was trying to push it on me because supposedly I'm a better speaker. But God had better plans. It's not about how well you speak. It's about whether or not God chooses you to be there. And he chose Pastor Owen to be in front. And so he was able to speak over there. We got the publicity. We were on the Press Telegram for a little bit. And they weren't saying nice things about us at all. Until finally in May, when we were over at City Hall, we had our signs. You know, and my stepfather said to them, you know, back off your bulldozers, for you are standing on holy ground. And it was an amazing experience. We could see from the city council that they were afraid. It was crazy. You know, we're supposed to be scared, but why are they scared? Eventually, we got a letter saying that the city of Long Beach wasn't going to pursue eminent domain with us. And so as part of that, you see an empty lot on the right-hand side and houses here. And I think they even adjusted their architecture to make it match the way our church looks, because I noticed that, you know. Across the street, it doesn't look like us, but when you go across from this area, they have like tile roofing too, you know. And so from that point on, so many years later, so 2006, we're at 2019, 13 years later, we're still on this property, still seeking God's will in this. And so that's the testimony that we talk about. Today is Deliverance Day. And so what we normally do is talk about how God, you know, deliverance. The theme is deliverance. And so what we'll do is talk about God's deliverance. And that will take place in Exodus chapter 14, 1 through 31. Did I turn on my mic?
No.
Okay, did not. Okay, hold on, let me see some blue stuff. Okay, I saw it.